If you grew up in the West during the early 2000s, this game was considered an unplayable, frustrating failure that ended up in bargain bins within weeks of release. But if you grew up in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, or Nepal, this wasn't just a game. This was a certified part of childhood. This is the story of Project IGI, the game the West threw away, and the game that defined a generation of South Asian gamers. In December 2000, a small Norwegian development studio called Innerloop Studios released a tactical first-person shooter called Project IGI worldwide. They had no interest in making another generic shooter. They wanted something different, a tactical spy game with massive, realistic outdoor environments that felt genuinely hostile and alive. To pull this off, they made one surprisingly clever decision. They took the engine from their previous game, Joint Strike Fighter, which was a literal fighter jet simulator, and used it to build a first-person shooter. That single decision is the reason why IGI's maps felt astronomically large. You weren't moving through corridors, you were moving through open terrain that stretched as far as your eyes could see. And this was 4 years before Far Cry made open tactical environments a standard in gaming. The protagonist is David Llewellyn-Jones, a former elite British SAS commando turned freelance tactical operative working directly under the Pentagon and an agency called the Institute for Geotactical Intelligence, which is what IGI stands for. He operates completely alone. No squad, no backup, just him, his weapons, and a mission. His handler is Rebecca Anya. While David climbed fences, dodged security cameras, and fought his way through enemy bases, Anya sat at a command terminal, giving him map coordinates, tracking targets, and guiding him through an earpiece. If you played this game, you still remember her voice. The game spans 14 missions across the former Soviet Union and Eastern Europe. Snowy mountains, isolated deserts, heavily guarded military facilities buried behind Soviet borders. The story begins in Tallinn, Estonia, and builds toward a brutal finale at a nuclear missile silo, where David has to stop a live nuclear launch against a ticking timer. The main antagonist is a rogue Russian military commander named Ek. She is cold, calculating, and always one step ahead. She acquires a stolen American nuclear warhead, dismantles it, and uses its components to activate a functional nuclear reactor at an abandoned plutonium plant. In the final mission, she doesn't hide. She sets the bomb on a tight countdown and attacks David directly. You have to fight her in a frantic high-stakes gunfight while the timer counts down. The moment you kill her and stop the launch, you discover that Anya was shot and wounded during the chaos. The final scene shows David standing over a bleeding Anya as the extraction helicopter arrives. Project IGI was doing things in 2000 that the rest of the industry wouldn't figure out until 2004 or 2005. In that era, almost every shooter, Half-Life, Medal of Honor, Doom, was built around narrow corridors. You walked forward, shot enemies, moved to the next room. IGI dropped you on a hill outside a massive military base and said nothing. There was no tutorial, no instructions, no hand-holding. You had to figure everything out yourself, which made the game feel genuinely immersive. You weren't playing a soldier, you were thinking like one. The game also featured a realistic bullet penetration system. If an enemy ducked behind a wooden fence or a thin sheet of metal, you could shoot straight through it and kill them. And it worked both ways. Hiding behind a thin crate wasn't safety. It was just a slower way to die. For a game released in 2000, that level of tactical realism was remarkable. David Jones was also treated like a real human being. Unlike the bullet sponge heroes of that era who could absorb 50 shots and keep running, David's health could vanish in seconds. This forced you to play with genuine caution, checking every corner, staying low, thinking before moving. Because of the fighter jet engine, the game had almost no render distance limitations. You could stand on a ridge 500 meters away, zoom in with a sniper rifle, and physically watch a lone guard pacing on top of a watchtower inside the base before taking him out. That kind of long-range awareness was unheard of in shooters at the time. And the soundtrack. Composed by Norwegian musician Kim M. Jensen, the main menu track alone made you feel like a spy reviewing classified intelligence before dropping into hostile territory. For millions of players, that track is the single most powerful nostalgia trigger of their entire childhood. Despite everything it got right, Project IGI had serious problems that Western audiences and critics couldn't overlook. The most punishing flaw was the complete absence of a mid-mission save system. If you died during the final stretch of a 45-minute mission, you started the entire mission again from the beginning. No checkpoints, no mercy. The enemy AI was deeply inconsistent. You could headshot a soldier with a sniper rifle and his partner standing 2 meters away would completely ignore the body. Enemies ran in straight lines directly into gunfire, got stuck walking against walls, and shattered any illusion of tactical realism the game had carefully built. The alarm system made things worse. In a game built around stealth and realism, triggering an alarm should have put you against a fixed number of defenders. Instead, guard posts became infinite spawn points that flooded the map with endless enemies until the mission felt impossible. There was also no multiplayer. At a time when Counter-Strike and Quake were dominating the Western market and defining what online gaming meant, IGI was strictly a single-player experience. Western audiences weren't willing to invest in a brutally difficult game with no online component. Critics acknowledged the impressive outdoor environments, the tense atmosphere, and the excellent sound design. But the mixed reception combined with the brutal difficulty meant Western gamers largely skipped it. The game ended up in bargain bins quickly, and Innerloop Studios saw very little commercial return. While the West moved on, something completely different was happening in India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, and Nepal. In these 4 countries, Project IGI didn't just find an audience. It became a cultural fixture of early 2000s youth. And there were very specific reasons why. The game ran flawlessly on low-spec machines. In South Asia during the early 2000s, a dedicated gaming PC was genuinely rare and expensive. IGI ran smoothly on basic office computers with Pentium 3 processors and integrated graphics. If your family had a PC, there was a good chance IGI was already on it. Internet cafes and local gaming centers were also exploding in popularity across the region during this period. Shop owners needed games that were cheap, ran on every machine without issues, and kept kids coming back. IGI became the default installation on almost every computer in those shops. Piracy also played a massive role. Original game purchases were uncommon. People burned copies onto CDs and shared them freely. Because IGI had a small file size, it spread faster than almost any other game of its era. And the gameplay itself connected with South Asian kids on a simple, direct level. David Jones was a lone wolf operative sneaking into military bases and taking down enemies with nothing but skill and patience. The game required no complex language skills to understand. You picked up a gun, you studied the base, and you found a way through. That simplicity combined with the intensity made it feel like living inside an action film. Slowly and without any marketing, without any hype, without any industry recognition, IGI turned into something much larger than a video game in South Asia. It became a shared experience across an entire generation. In 2003, Innerloop Studios released IGI 2, Covert Strike. It addressed many of the original's most criticized flaws. A mid-mission save system was added. A limited multiplayer mode was introduced. David Jones returned as the protagonist, deepening his status as a regional icon across South Asia. But the Western audience still largely ignored it. And in the same year IGI 2 was released, Innerloop Studios shut down entirely due to severe financial difficulties. The studio that created one of the most played games in South Asian history collapsed without the world paying much attention. In 2019, a prequel titled IGI Origins was officially announced by Antimatter Games, built on Unreal Engine with modern visuals. For South Asian gamers who had grown up with the original, the announcement felt like a genuine comeback moment. Then in 2023, Antimatter Games was shut down by its parent company due to financial issues, and IGI Origins was abandoned before it ever released. The franchise that had defined millions of childhoods was gone, twice. Project IGI was not a perfect game. It had real flaws, and the Western market made sure everyone knew about them. But flaws don't determine a game's legacy. Impact does. In South Asia, this game ran on underpowered machines and cramped internet cafes, copied onto CDs passed between friends, played for hours by kids who had no money to buy it officially, and no internet to download guides. And it left a mark that commercial success never could have manufactured. 25 years later, people still boot it up. They still remember Anya's voice. They still remember that main menu track. They still remember the exact feeling of standing on a ridge, watching a base through a sniper scope, planning a route through. The West threw it away. South Asia kept it alive. And that's what makes this story worth telling.